Hey Chaver, what's going on? Welcome back to Babel on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Beis, Daf 2, i.e. the first Daf of Masechta Pesachim. This is really exciting. Very excited to start Masechta Pesachim, and it's a great Daf, Chaver. So, just quickly before we begin, so the first Daf of Pesachim talks about the time to do bedikat hametz. Do you do it the night? Do you do it the day? So we'll see machlokas between Rav Huna and Rav Yehuda about that. And as sort of a side point, we are going to see a machlokas between Rav Yehuda and Rav Eliezer ben Yaakov about places where there may be an Isser Malacha, right, that people don't do Malacha on Erev Pesach. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And Chaver, let's get started with the first Daf of Masechta Pesachim. So here we go. Or La'arba Asar, that on the Or of the 14th day of Nisan, Bodkines hametz l'or aner, so we search for hametz to the light of a candle. Now, basically the subject of literally the entire daf today is going to be how to understand the word or. Does it mean the night of the 14th, i.e. like the 13th at night, right? So Seder night is, right, the first day of Pesach is the 15th day of Nisan. Now, Seder night is the 14th at night, i.e. like the night between the 14th and the 15th. So, if we say that Or L'Arba Asar means the night, it means the night between the 13th and the 14th, which, practically speaking, is actually when we do bedikas hametz. However, it's possible that Or actually means the day, which would mean that we would do bedikas hametz on the morning of the 14th, i.e. that night we would have the Seder, and that morning of the Seder night we would do bedikas hametz. So we're going to see that that's really the subject of today's daf, is trying to understand what Or means. But for now, we'll say that Or L'Arba Asar both kines hametz l'or aner, that on the Or of the 14th day of Nisan, we do bedikas hametz with the light of a candle. Kol makom she'en machnisin bo chametz ein tzarich bedika. So any place where you could be 100% certain that chametz does not go there, chametz of course being leavened bread, so then you don't need to search for chametz in a place where you know for sure that there is no chametz. Uvama, and with what? Meaning where do you do this bedika? Amru beis shuris b'martev, 2 rows in a wine cellar, makom shemachnisin bo chametz, a place where they bring chametz. Okay, so basically, if in your wine cellar, as Rashi points out, let's say in your wine cellar, you know that the servant who serves you at your meals goes down there, if it's in the middle of the meal and he has to get some wine from the wine cellar, he might go in there with some bread, so then you have to do a bedika over there. Beis Shammai omrim, say Beis Shammai, Beis Shuros apnei kol amartev, ubeis Hillel omrim shtei shuros achitzonos she'ein elyonos. The Gemara is going to have to explain to us what these mean, but literally means that Beis Shammai says 2 rows on all of the wine cellar, and Beis Hillel says just the top and bottom rows. We're gonna have to understand what that means. Okay, the Gemara now begins, and the subject of today's Gemara for literally the entire daf is going to be how to understand what this word or means. So, my or, what does or mean? Rav Huna Amar Naghe, Rav Yehuda Amar Lele. There you have it. Rav Huna says that or means the day, whereas Rav Yehuda says that or means the night. Okay, here we go. So now it enters your mind to say that Rav Huna, who says that it means day, it literally means daytime, like from when the day begins with the rays of light. And Rav Yehuda, who says nighttime, it means literally that you do it at night. Okay. Meisvei, question number 1. First question. Haboker or v'anoshim shulchu. So it says that by the brothers, when they were with Joseph in Egypt, and with the whole thing with the cup, and they planted the cup with Binyamin, and they, what's it called? Set him up, cause I forget what the word is over there. Not foiled, but whatever it is. They set him up, framed him, and so it says that haboker or, and it was the light of the day, and the brothers were sent away to be chased after a few minutes later by Yosef's servants. So it says haboker or. So what do we see? That the boker is or. What's or? Or is boker, is morning. So settled, right? It's like Rav Huna, who says that or means daytime. So Alma or Yamamu, so we see that or is daytime. So the Gemara answers, not necessarily, because Miksiv ha'or boker, does it say that or is the morning? Ha-boker or ksiv. It means the morning shone. Kiman de Amar, Tzafra Nohar. Like a person might say that the morning shone, like from the word shine, right? So ha-boker or, the morning shone, right? Like the sun shone in the morning and shined in the morning, and then that is when they left. So it doesn't mean that or, that the noun or, the word or means day. It means that it's a verb, right? In that context, that the morning was shining and then they left. Rav Yehuda Amarav, and they were doing like Rav Yehuda Amarav prescribes. Rav Yehuda Amarav le'olam yikanis adam bechitov v'yetze bechitov, right? It says that when God created the world, vayaris ha'or kitov, that God said that light was good. So it says Rav Yehuda that a person should always go out, right? Yikanis adam bechitov. Person should enter into a city. If he's traveling and it's getting close to nighttime, he should enter into the place where he's going to sleep that night, bechitov, when it's still light outside, v'yetzei bechitov, and then when he leaves, the next morning he should leave when it's light outside. Okay, fine. So we haven't yet proved that or means daytime. Fine. Meisvei, we have another kasha. V'cha'or boker yizrach shamesh. Oh, and like the light of the morning will the sun shine. Okay, so here we basically have it, right? The previous puzzle said haboker or, and we said no, haboker or doesn't mean that or is the morning, because if that's what it meant, it would say or boker. So here we have it, or boker. Isn't that perfect? Right? So alma or yamamu. So or is day. But the Gemara says no. The Gemara is not satisfied. Miksiv or boker. Does it say that light is day? Or boker ksiv. It means or boker, like the shining of the morning. This is what it's saying. Or boker, and just like the morning shines in this world, it will be like the shining of the sun for the righteous in the world to come. Very beautiful. But again, we have argued that or does not mean day, it means shining. It's a verb in those psukim. Okay, so we're still on the hunt for a context where or means either night or day. Meisvei, we have a kasha. Vayikra Elokim la'or yom, that God called or day. Oh, all right, that sounds like it should be a good proof. Alma or yamamu, so or means day. So the Gemara says no. Hachi ka'amar, this is what it means. Lameir uva kira'o yom. As Rashi says, Lameir uvakra uyom misha'a shematchil ha'ir v'hai or lav shem davaru. As Rashi points out, right, or in this case is not a noun. It's not saying that, right, that God called and I dub you day, right? God didn't say, right, vayikra lukim la or yom. He didn't say, or you are going to be day. No, rather, Lameir uva, that from the time, what the pasuk is saying is that from the time that it begins to get dark, to get light, at that point it's already considered daytime. That's what it's saying. But right, so Achikamer lemeir uva, that once it already begins to get light, kira'o yom, God called that day. But one second, ela me'ata v'lachoshech kar alayla. But when it says in the pasuk v'lachoshech, that to choshech God called night, lemachshech uva kar alayla. Does that mean that once it begins to get dark and continues to get dark, that's already nighttime? But we learned in the first Gemara in all of Shas that we learned already close to a year ago, that it's considered daytime until Tzeis HaKochavim. So therefore, from the time that it becomes to get dark, from the time that it begins to get dark, it's not yet actually considered nighttime. It's still considered daytime until the stars come out. So therefore, if we want to say that v'la'or vayikra Elokim la'or yom, that God called or yom, that God called or day, which means that from the time that it begins to get light, it's already called day. Well, then we would have to say that when the pasuk continues, that v'lachoshech kar alayla, it means that from the time that it begins to get dark, he called it night, but that's simply not true, because from the time that it begins to get dark, it's still daytime until the stars come out. So Elohachi ka'amar. So yeah, okay. So then the Gemara is going to says that this is what the pasuk means. Karye Rachmana Linahora, that God called to the creation that, what's the word? To the creation that radiates light. And he said, you, radiator of light, you're going to be in charge of the day. And he called the radiator of darkness, I guess, the thing that gives off darkness, and he put that in, and said, you're going to be in place at night. So again, it's not saying that or is yom or not. It's saying the radiator of light was placed in charge of day. Okay, but it's not like the noun or to say that or means day or night. Okay, fine. Meisvei, we have a kasha. Halu kokochvei or, that praise God all of the stars of Or. Okay, so Ama Or Ortahu. So we see that Or is nighttime, right? The Kochvei Or, the stars of the night, right? So there you have it. Or means night. So Hachi Ka'amar, Halalu Kol Kochavim HaMe'irim. Rather say no. What it means is Kol Kochvei Or, it doesn't mean the stars of the night. It means praise God, the stars that radiate light. Okay, so Elameata Kochavim HaMe'irim. But wait a second, so I don't get it. So only the stars that give off light, that radiate light, have to praise God, but the stars that don't radiate light don't have to praise God? It says that all of the legions and constellations need to praise God, meaning there's no exceptions. I mean, the Gemara is about to say that, the fact of the matter is that there's no such thing as a star that doesn't radiate light, but, anything in the sky needs to praise God. So, what's the deal with, the saying that just the stars that radiate light? So, Ella, ha, kamash malan, to or the kochavim nami or hu. So, the Gemara says, no, there's a technical reason why it says or over there. Right. So yeah, it's talking about the stars the stars that give off light. Okay. But why? But it's not to imply that stars that don't give off light don't need to praise God. No, what it means is that the light that emanates from stars is considered light. L'may nafkamina. Okay. what? So what? Why do you have to teach us that the light that emanates from stars is called light? So l'noder mina or, the nafkamina is, the difference is for somebody who makes a vow that he is going to refrain from getting any benefit from light. So the question is, if this fellow says, I am not going to get any benefit from light, can he get benefit from the light of stars? So the answer is no, because kochvei or means that we treat the light that radiates from stars as regular light, and therefore somebody who says he's not going to get any benefit from light is even unable to get benefit from the light of the stars. The Tanya, as we learn in Abraisa, Hanoder min haor, somebody who makes a vow that he's not going to get any benefit from light, also ba'orin shel kochavim, is forbidden to get light from the light of, to get benefit from the light of stars. Meisvei, we have a kasha. So we're still searching for a place where or equals day or night. Every single proof that we've tried to bring so far is basically, either a verb or some other descriptor, but it doesn't mean that or equals day or night. We're still searching for that. Meisvei, we have a kasha. La'or yakum rotzeach. So it's a pasuk in Eov. It says that in the or, a rotzeach a murderer will get up, yiktal ani ve'evyon, and murder a poor person or a destitute person, uvalayla, and at night, yihi chaganev, he will be like a thief. So hamid ka'amar uvalayla yihi chaganev, alma or yamamu. Well, from the fact that it says that at night he will be like a thief, well then what's ke'or? What's the opposite of night? Day. So the Gemara says, no, don't say it like that. Rather, the whole pasuk is a metaphor to teach us about haba b'machteres. Who could tell me what haba b'machteres is? It's a sugya in Masechta Sanhedrin. It comes up in Masechta Sanhedrin. It's from Psukim in Parshas Mishpatim, I believe. That haba b'machteres literally means somebody who comes from a tunnel, and it's talking about if you have a thief, and a thief digs a tunnel under somebody's house in the middle of the night, and he breaks into the house. So in that case, we say that you would be able to kill the thief, because the thief knows that if he gets caught, the owner of the house is not just going to stand idly by while he gets robbed, so he's going to defend himself. And therefore the thief makes up in his mind, well, if this homeowner tries to defend himself, well, I'll just kill him. So therefore we can assume that this thief is coming to actually kill the homeowner if he gets caught. Therefore we can kill the thief first. That's the sugya of Abba Machteres, right? He's considered a rodef, and therefore Abba lahorgecha ashkem lahorgo. If somebody comes to kill you, you can kill him first, okay? And the assumption is that this thief will kill you if you find him. If you find him, he'll try to kill you. Now there's one exception to this rule. The exception to the rule is a father who is robbing his son, because you can assume in that case that the father will, under no circumstances, will he actually kill his son. And therefore, in that case, you can assume that the father is not going to murder his son, and therefore you'd be unable to kill the father who is the thief. So, now, says the Gemara, Hachi ka'amar, this is what this pasuk in Eov is saying. It's a metaphor. In pshita lach milsa kinohora, that if it is as clear to you as light, danefashos kaasi, that this thief who's tunneling into the house is coming to murder the homeowner, i.e. that if he gets caught and the homeowner tries to defend himself, the thief has already made up that he's going to kill the homeowner. So rotzeachu, well then the thief is not just a thief, he's a murderer, v'nitan latzilu benafsho, and you're able to save the homeowner by killing the thief. Now that's either the homeowner can save himself by killing the thief, or anybody who's witnessing it can kill the thief because you know that he's going to kill the homeowner who's trying to defend himself. But if you're uncertain if the thief is going to kill the homeowner, i.e. if the thief is the father of the person who's being robbed, well then the thief is simply like a regular old thief, and you will be unable to save the homeowner by killing the thief, because you can assume that the thief is not going to kill his son, who is the homeowner. Meisve, we have another question. Yechshechu kochve nishpo yikav leor v'ayin v'ayir be'afape shachar. Wow. So it's another pasuk in Eov. Eov says, Yechshechu kochve nishpo, that the stars of his night should become dark. Wow. Yikav leor v'ayin, he will hope for light, or for or, let's say, and it will be found nowhere. Ve'al yir ba'afape shachar, and he will not see the rays of the morning. Wow. Okay. Now the Gemara says, Midika Amar yikav leor va'ayin, from the fact that it says that he will hope for or and he will not find it, Alma or Yamamahu. It's saying that he's going to hope for the day and he will not find it, right? The pasuk says that the stars of the night will go dark, and he will hope for the or and he won't find it, i.e. he'll hope for the morning, for the light of morning, and it won't come. So we see that or is daytime. So the Gemara answers, no, that's something else. Hasam militu de kalayet le Eov the mazale. Eov is just very upset, and he is cursing his constellation, and he's saying, Amar Yehiraiva, may it be the will, the litzbeach gavra l'nahora, that he should wish for light, v'lo lishkechei, and not find it. Okay. Fine. So again, we still have not found a place where we feel confident to say that or means either day or night. Meisvei, we have a kasha. Va'omar achoshech yishufeni v'layla or ba'adeni. That David HaMelech says that I said achoshech yishufeni, that darkness will encompass me, v'layla or ba'adeni, and the night, but in the end the night was or for me, right? Meaning David HaMelech said that he thought that it was going to be all darkness, but in the end it was light. So Alma or Yamamu, from the fact that we're saying Vilaila or, that the night was or, so meaning the night was actually day. The opposite of night is day. So the Gemara also says, no, that's also not a good proof. David, this is what David was saying. Ani amarti, I said, that I will be encircled overcome by darkness in the world to come, which is similar, right? The world to come is similar to the day. But however now, ha'olam hazeh shu doma l'layla. But what ended up happening, right? I thought that in the world to come, which is similar to daytime, it will nonetheless be dark for me, i.e., things were going to be pretty bad. But in the end, what happened was that this world, which is generally considered like nighttime, or ba'adeni, was nonetheless light for me. But it's not it doesn't mean that or is day. It just means that it was light. Okie dokie. Meisvei, we have a kasha. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, says Rabbi Yehuda, bodkin or larba asar, that you can do bedikas hametz on or larba asar, uva arba asar shachris. And if you didn't do it or l'arba asar, so you can do it arba asar in the morning. And you can also do bedikas chametz at the time that you burn the chametz. Nu chevra. So what did we see? We saw or, and we saw morning, and we saw at the time of bedikas chametz. So b'dika amar Rabbi Yehuda bodkin or arba asar uva arba asar shachris. From the fact that Rabbi Yehuda says that you can do bedikas chametz or l'arba asar or on the 14th in the morning. Alma or tehu shmamina. Chevra, you see that? It looks like we got an uncontested proof, which is that Rabbi Yehuda says that you can do bedikas chametz either or l'arba asar. Alternatively, you can do bedikas chametz on the 14th in the morning, which means that or l'arba asar must be the night before. So here's a proof that or means night. There you go. And that's just like we do, practically speaking, right? We do bedikas chametz the night before Seder night. Meisvei, okay, but we're not done. Still, for the rest of the daf, we have a whole another half an amud where we're going to be trying to bring other more proofs. So Meisvei, we have a kasha. Meimasar arba asar asur basias melacha. From what point is the 14th of Nisan forbidden to do melacha? What does it mean it's forbidden to do melacha? Of course, we do melacha on the 15th, on the 14th, i.e., on Erev Pesach. Right? We're allowed to do work. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Mishasa or. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says from the time of or. Okay, what does that mean? We'll have to figure that out. Rabbi Yehuda Mishasa Netzachama. Rabbi Yehuda says that from the time of sunrise. Right. So I think I started explaining this and then stopped. So there are places where they have a custom not to do melacha on the eve of Pesach, on the 14th of Nisan. So in those places where the tradition, where the custom is not to do work on the 14th of Nisan, so at what point does that kick in? Does that mean from the night before? Is it like Shabbos, that it starts already from sundown the night before? Maybe it starts from dawn, maybe it starts from sunrise. When does it start? So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says cryptically from the time of or. Okay, I'll have to figure out what that means. Rabbi Yehuda says more straightforwardly from the time of sunrise. Now, interestingly, it looks like the Rambam paskins like Rabbi Yehuda. Now, if you remember from Masechta Eruvin on Daf Samach Gimel Amud Beis, we say Mishnah Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Kav V'Noki, that the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov are measured and they are clean, meaning they don't come up too often, yet when they do, we tend to hold like them, and yet the Gemara over here seems, the Rambam seems to be passing like Rabbi Yehuda over here, so that's interesting, by comparison. Anyway, so Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says that we do bedikat, that we refrain from doing malacha on the 14th of Nisan, if that is your minhag, from or, and Rabbi Yehuda says from sunrise. Amalei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov to Rabbi Yehuda. So now Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says to Rabbi Yehuda, Mechi heichan matzinu yom shemiktasu asu b'asiyas melacha, miktasu mutu b'asiyas melacha. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says to Rabbi Yehuda, where do we ever have a precedent where you can have a day that is partially permitted to do melacha and partially forbidden to do melacha? Right? Rabbi Yehuda, if you're saying that up until Hinei Tzachama, until sunrise, you're allowed to do melacha and only afterwards you're not, when do we ever have that precedent? Omerle, to which Rabbi Yehuda responds, Hu atzmo yochiach. I mean, look at the 14th day of Nisan itself. It's a unique day. Shemiktasu muter b'achilas chametz, umiktasu asu b'achilas chametz. That part of the 14th day of Nisan, you're permitted to eat chametz, and part of the 14th day of Nisan, you're forbidden to eat chametz, right? Up until 6 hours into the day, you're permitted to eat chametz, and we're going to have to, understand more detail about that, but mida oraisa, until the 6th hour of the day, you are permitted to eat chametz, and after the 6th hour of the day, you're forbidden to eat chametz. So Rabbi Yehuda is saying, look, on the 14th day of Nisan itself, we already see that there are certain things that you're allowed to do for part of the day and not allowed to do for part of the day, and therefore, doing melacha is one of those things as well, that in places where they have the custom to refrain from doing melacha on Erev Pesach, so that would be for only part of the day, i.e. from sunrise and onwards. Now, midika amar Rabbi Yehuda mishas enitzachama, from the fact that Rabbi Yehuda says that you refrain from doing melacha from sunrise and onwards, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is arguing and saying, what do you mean? It's either all or none. There's no such thing as only part of the day refraining from melacha. Alma or dika amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. Orto, well, that must mean that when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is saying that you refrain from doing melacha from or, it must mean from the beginning of the night. That or is night, and Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is saying that you do not do melacha already from the night time, if that is your custom to not do melacha on Erev Pesach, that would kick in from the nighttime, just like Shabbos and Yom Tov, it kicks in from the nighttime. And Rabbi Yehuda is saying it kicks in from sunrise. And Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is saying, how can you say from sunrise? When do we ever see that the Isser Melacha is only for part of the day? And it must mean that Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is saying that already from the night before we refrain from doing melacha. Lo, the Gemara says no. Mai or Amud HaShachar. When Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says that you refrain from doing melacha from the time of or, it actually means from dawn, from Amud HaShachar. So whereas Rabbi Yehuda says that you refrain from doing melacha from sunrise, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says you refrain from doing melacha slightly before that, which is from Amud HaShachar, from dawn. If that's the case, the Ka'amarle, when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says to Rabbi Yehuda, Heichan matzinu yom shemiktasu mutar basiyas melacha umiktasu asu basiyas melacha, when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov argues against Rabbi Yehuda and he says, Ma pitom, when do we ever have a case where part of the day is permitted to do melacha and part of the day is forbidden to do melacha? Well, Neima iyu lenafshe, let Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov take a good look at himself. Ha'ika laila de kashari. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov himself is permitting you to do melacha at night, and only from Amud HaShachar, only from dawn is he saying that you're not allowed to do melacha. So, hey, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, when do we ever have a precedent for a day that is partially permitted to do melacha and partially not? I.e., when Shabbos or Yom Tov comes, we don't do melacha already from the night before. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, where do we have a precedent for an Isser Melacha from dawn and forward? So Hachi Kamar, the Gemara says no, that's not necessarily a good question. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is in fact referring to from dawn and onwards. Okay, and this is what he's saying to Rabbi Yehuda. L'didi ashkachna dikapalge rabbanon ben yimama l'lelia. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, look, I could find you a case where the rabbis differentiate between the night and the day, i.e. that there's something that's permitted at night, but once dawn comes, already something would be forbidden. Ditnan, as we learn in a Mishnah, or it looks like there's a gears that changes it to Ditanya, as we learn in a Brisa. Gabi tainis tzibur, by a public fast day, ad mosai ochel v'shosa, until what point are you allowed to eat and drink? Ad sheyayla amud hashachar, until dawn. Divrei Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov. That's Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov's opinion. Rabbi Shimon Omer ad kros hagaver. Rabbi Shimon says until the rooster crows. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, look, I could find you a precedent for where the rabbis said that you're permitted to do something until dawn, and then from dawn forward you're unable to do it. You're prohibited from doing it. Because we see that by public fast days, which are dirabanan, just like doing melacha on Erev Yom Tiv, on Erev, the prohibition of doing melacha on Erev Pesach is only midirabanan, right? Midoraisa. You're allowed to do melacha on Erev Pesach. It's just a custom in certain places that they don't. So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, look, just like the rabbis say that the fasting on a public fast day kicks in from dawn, well, here also, when in places where the custom is not to do melacha on Erev Pesach, that kicks in from dawn as well. El ledidach, but continues Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, you, Rabbi Yehuda, Heicha ashkachna yumama gufe depalge be rabbanon. But where do we have a precedent where the day itself, where part of the day, i.e. from, in this case, from dawn until sunrise, would be permitted to do malacha, but from sunrise and onwards, it's not permitted to do malacha, i.e., that first piece of the day, the Isur D'Rabbanan doesn't kick in yet, and only from sunrise and onward does it kick in. Where do we have a precedent where the rabbis do that, where the rabbis say that there's something that's permitted until a certain part of the day and forbidden after that part of the day? To which Amar Le, Rabbi Yehuda responds, well, hu atzmo yochiach, the day itself is a proof against you, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, shemikzasu mutar b'achilas chametz, umikzasu asu b'achilas chametz, that you're allowed to eat chametz for part of the day, and you're not allowed to eat chametz from another part of the day, from 6 hours and onward. And therefore, Rabbi Yehuda is saying, well, there you have it. Just like chametz on the 14th day of Nisan, you're allowed to eat it for part of the day and forbidden from eating it for another part of the day. Well, the same thing will apply to the prohibition against doing malacha, where that is the custom, that for part of the day you're allowed to do malacha, i.e. until sunrise, but from sunrise and onwards you're not allowed to do malacha. So the Gemara says, wow, okay, shop your kameh Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Yehuda, that's a good response to Rabbi Eliezer, right? There you go. Chametz is an example of where it's permitted for part of the day and forbidden for another part of it, for the other part of the day. So hachi kameh Rabbi Eliezer. So the Gemara explains what Rabbi Eliezer is saying to, or i.e. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is saying to Rabbi Yehuda. Amina lach ana melacha d'Rabbanan. Right? So Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says to Rabbi Yehuda, hey, Rabbi Yehuda, I'm talking to you about melacha, which is mid'Rabbanan, right? Refraining from doing malacha on Erev Pesach is only a din d'Rabbanan. Mid'oraisa, you're allowed to do malacha. There's just a custom in certain places, right? And I'm looking for proofs of places where the rabbis, so I'm bringing a proof from my opinion, which is that from dawn, you refrain from doing malacha in those places. I'm bringing you a proof from another place where the rabbis said that something kicks in at dawn, and that is fast days. And you are bringing a proof for me when I'm searching for a precedent by a rabbinic institution. You're bringing me a proof by chametz, which is the oraisa, that that the Torah says that you're allowed to eat chametz until the 6th hour of the day, and from then on you're not allowed to. You're bringing me a proof from something that midoraisa, there's a certain part of the day that you're allowed to do it, and from then on you're not allowed to do it. I'm not looking for doraisas. I'm talking about the custom not to do malacha on Erev Pesach, which is midorabanan, and I'm looking for rabbinic precedents for when they would kick in. So I need you to respond with something rabbinic. V'idach shows the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda is saying, yeah, but, and as I alluded to a few minutes ago, that midoraisa, you're allowed to eat chametz on Erev Pesach until the 6th hour of the day, but from the 6th hour of the day and onwards, you're not allowed to eat chametz. However, the rabbis extended that. They said even from, meaning made it even earlier, that even from the 4th hour of the day, you're unable to eat chametz, because they wanted to prevent you from accidentally eating chametz after the 6th hour when midoraisa it's not allowed. So they say already 2 hours earlier, stop eating chametz. So we see that it is the rabbis essentially then saying that you're allowed to eat chametz until the 4th hour of the day, and from then on you're not allowed to eat chametz. So here is your precedent for the rabbis saying that there's something that kicks in for only part of the day. So v'idach, to which Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov is not satisfied, and he says, Harchako hu da'avd Rabbanan lida'oraisa. Still, I'm looking for something that's entirely d'Rabbanan, like not doing malacha on Erev Pesach or public fast days, which are d'Rabbanan. The case of chametz, which is allowed until 6 hours, and then after 6 hours it's not allowed, and the rabbi said, push it up 2 hours to the 4th hour, that's really just to prevent, as a safeguard for a deoraisa, which is that you don't eat chametz after 6 hours. I'm looking for something which is entirely rabbinic in nature. Okay, that's machlokes between Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov and Rabbi Yehuda. But the point being for us that when Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says or, it means Amud HaShachar, it means dawn, it does not necessarily mean night. However, Chevra, do not forget that we do have that proof from where Rabbi Yehuda says that you can do bedikat chametz either or l'arba'a asar or on the 14th shacharis, that or means the night. Okay, now we're going to have another successful proof. Here we go. Meisvei, we have a kasha, ein masin masuos ela ala chodesh shenira bizmano lekadsho. That, what is this talking about, masin masuos? This is talking about, it's actually a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah, We're going to get to Rosh Hashanah, I believe, actually right after Pesachim, right? It goes Pesachim, then there's like Shkalim, which is like 3 weeks, and then we get to Rosh Hashanah. So in Rosh Hashanah, it discusses, how would they establish a new year? Not a new year, a new month, right? A month can be either 29 days, right? A sort of Jewish month can be either 29 days or it can be 30 days. And if a month is 29 days and on day 30, people see the new moon and they come to Jerusalem and they say, hey, we saw that there is a new moon on day 30, which means that already day 30 is the first day of the next month, which means that the previous month was 29 days. So how do they let everybody know, like, hey, everybody, the new month has already begun? So at one point, what they were doing is they would go on top of a mountain with special torches, and people on different mountains would see the torches, then they would light their own torches. There was a whole chain of torches, and everybody would see the torches and know that, okay, the new month has begun. Okay? Now, when would these torches be lit? When would they light these torches to tell everybody that the month has already begun? So Le'or Iburo, the night following the Iburo, right? The Yom HaIbur is the 30th day of the month. So the following night, Le'or Iburo, the night following the Yom HaIbur, the 30th day, Alma or Tahu Shmamina. So here is another proof where we succeed in proving that or means night, because Le'or Iburo, on the night following the 30th day, because you're not going to light torches during the day, you're not going to see it, right? Somewhere in Shas, I think it says Shaga Batira Mai Mahani or something, that like a flame during the day, you're not going to see it. I don't remember if I've seen it before or where it comes from. I remember learning it in like 10th or 11th grade or something. Context of Hanukkah candles, I think. Anyways, so, alright, so there's another proof that or means night. Meisvei, one final brisa, Hayomed kol halayla umakriv al mizbeach. If you have a Kohen who is standing all night and offering sacrifices not offering sacrifices, like right, it's also the first Mishnah in all of Shas, right? That hekter chalavim ve'evarim mitzvasan kol halayla ad sheyala amud hashachar, right? That if you have these korbanos that were slaughtered during the daytime and now you're putting their fats and limbs on the mizbeach, so that can be done until the morning. So if you have a Kohen who is putting all these limbs and things on the Mizbeach all night, so Le'ora Ton Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim, so in the next morning he needs to do Kiddush Yadayim V'Raglayim, basically wash his hands and his feet. That's how they would, that was part of the avoda in the Beis Mikdash. They would have to wash their hands and their feet. So we see that Ora means morning. Wait a second. So the only two brises that actually succeeded in teaching us anything was that Ora means night. But now we're saying that Ora means morning. So Divrei Rebbe, that's Rebbe's opinion, Ora shiny, to which the Gemara answers, yeah, Ora is different. Or means nighttime, but Ora means daytime, and Rabbi Yehuda agrees with that as well. Chevre, that was the first daf of Masechta Pesachim. I hope you enjoyed it. Different vibes from Eruvin. Personally, I found it to be a breath of fresh air, but I will leave that up to everybody to decide for themselves. Let us do a quick review. I mean, it's not much to review because it was pretty much one theme that went throughout, which is, does the word or refer to the night or the day? Rav Huna says that it refers to the day, i.e., you do bedikat hametz on the day of the 14th of Nisan, whereas Rav Yehuda says it refers to the night, i.e., you do bedikat hametz on the night before the 14th day of Nisan. We got into this machlokas on Beis Amud Beis about the Isur Malacha, or places where there's an Isur Malacha of doing, where they refrain from doing Malacha on the 14th of Nisan, meaning if that town has the custom not to do Malacha on the 14th of Nisan. So Rav Yehuda says that it begins from Nates, from sunrise. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says it begins from Or. Initially we wanted to say it means from the night before, but ultimately we seem to have gone with the opinion that it goes from dawn. Alright, very cool. That was the first daf of Masechta Pesachim. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope I'll see you tomorrow. Cheers.